Okay. I guess, yan. Okay, nandiyan na pala. Okay, good morning to everyone. I hope the stream is working okay. Parang malabo. Malabo siya. Anyway, good morning to everyone. Ano ba kayo? Dalawa. So, tatlo. Put that on silent. Okay, so good morning to everyone. Sino yan? Si Denise, Janice, Jewel, Nicole. Okay, so welcome to Angela. Good morning. Welcome to the stream today. We will be doing, as scheduled, we'll do mixed media rendering for today. So, medyo madami-dami to. So, let's try to get it done as fast as humanly possible, na medyo okay naman yung medyo okay yung quality ng render. Okay, so good morning to everyone. Again, if you have any questions, don't put it in the chat, or we can talk about it later on Discord. Medyo it should be easy, pero if you're not really sure about what you're doing, or you don't really know, or you're not very acquainted, hindi kayo familiar sa materials niyo, baka nahirapan kayo ng konti sa mixed media rendering. Pero yung aim kasi nun is like you want to make things faster, para mas mabilis yung papagawa ninyo. Okay, so we'll run through several things first before we start. First, I checked your first submission, yung watercolor plate in preparation for this session, and I noticed certain things na pwede natin i-improve in general. I'm not talking about any specific person, it's just like overall impression about the plates. So, I noticed that many of you are kulang sa contrast, or usually I call it like takot gumamit ng ng medium, So paano ko nasabi, ba't ko nasabi na parang takot kayo gumamit ng medium ninyo? Kasi mukha siyang maputla. they're very pale. So, maputla siya. So usually ang indication nun parang takot kayo or hindi kayo sigurado sa kung ano yung ginagawa ninyo. Teka lang, may kukunin lang ako. Okay, so paano natin just to illustrate the point, Kasi for example, when we look at the sample plate, let's take a look at this one first. Diba sabi ko, halimbawa dito okay lang kasi flat wash siya, pero to dito tsaka yung graded wash, dapat merong contrast, yung malinaw talaga na merong dark, tapos nagta-transition siya into light. So the same thing here, there's a dark part and then it transitions to a lighter color, then papunta ulit to a darker color. So parang ganito, no, malinaw na merong tatlong division. Even in this one, no, malinaw na merong like dark, there's a medium, there's a light, and then medium, and then light. Same thing here. So marami kasi sa mga nag-submit, nung tiningnan ko yung plate, parang walang pinagkaiba yung ano, it's just like there's this two tones lang siya, no? Parang there's a medium and then there's a light, wala talagang dark. So in effect, maputla yung labas ng kulay. So that's definitely something that we can work on, no? Para mag-improve yung mga renders natin, no? So why am I kinda why do I want to emphasize that? Because it's very crucial when we want to render, when we want to develop shadows and shading. So importante siya para maayos yung shading at saka yung ano natin, shadows natin. Kasi kung hindi, kung puro light lang at saka medium, hindi siya ganun kapansin, no? It can come across as very weak, no? Maputla, hindi malakas yung render. So you want at least like light and dark, no? Yung medium, kahit ano, yung parang somewhere in the middle lang naman siya eh. Pero dapat may magandang transition from light to dark. So ayun, ayusin natin yun, no? But before that, I'll show you some examples on how to better judge your work if it's like light or if it has enough lightness or contrast between light and darkness. But before that, I just want to I want to plug this. If you haven't registered, syempre, no, we all know that we'll have an election next year, no? 2022 is an election year, and most likely many of you haven't registered yet to vote for next year's election. So if you haven't, please go out and register. According to reports, the COMELEC is way below their target number of registered voters or new registered voters for this year, no? Parang may shortfall sila ng 4 million na tao na gusto nilang magrehistro pero hindi nagpaparehistro yung mga tao. So kung isa kayo doon, hindi pa kayo nagpaparehistro, magparehistro kayo, no? Madali lang yung proseso, lalo na kung magbubook kayo ng appointment online sa COMELEC website. So mabilis lang siya. Okay. So yun, so yun yung aking pasakalye this morning. So, okay, pero ito talaga yung dito tayo magsisimula. So, okay na tayo dyan. Saan na yun? I want to show you this. This is one artist that I really admire when it comes to rendering and coloring, kasi he really knows how to work all of these things and come up with like a really good contrast between light and shadows, and that's why his renders are very effective. So how do you usually what's an easy way for you to evaluate kung maganda yung contrast ng light and shadows ninyo, no? Kasi pag ganito, if it's in color, sometimes it can be a little hard to judge if you have a good contrast between darkness and lightness. So what I usually do is you can use your phone to help you see if your contrast is good or not, no? Or if you have good contrast or not. So this is what I usually do, no? You can take a photo of your plate or whatever it is that you want to check. Tapos, you open the editing, the photo editing software of your phone, and then you play around with the contrast. So, if you want to turn the photo into a black and white photo, palitan nyo yung contrast and make like really low, sorry, hindi pala contrast, saturation pala, no? You put the saturation like really low, so you'll get a black and white photo. Okay? Now once black and white na yung photo, mas makikita nyo na yung variations between like white up to black. So in this example, lalo na dun sa crown or tiara ni Wonder Woman, nakikita mo talaga yung transition o yung range ng contrast niya, from very light, kung saan nag-shine yung tiara kasi metallic siya, at kung saan siya itim. So that's if you have all of those ranges of color, no, from white all the way up to black, pera sa kulay ng papel, no? I'm talking about the render itself. Then most likely you have a good degree of contrast. For example, tingnan nyo yung skin ni Wonder Woman dito, no, kung saan nagre-reflect yung light dito sa kanyang right side. So it's almost white, and then it transitions to a lot of grays, and then there are blacks naman, very dark grays naman dito. Syempre, it also adds the the black, the hair is gray, black, so it helps with the contrasting of the colors. So try to achieve something like that. Now I'll show you something that I've this is a render that I showed you some time ago, no, that I did. Medyo siguro more than a year ko na nagawa to, and then I turned it into black and white, and that is the contrast levels of the render kung naka black and white na siya. So this one's kinda okay, no? Lalo na, I think okay siya lalo na doon sa sa chaise lounge, no? Yung upuan, kasi malakas yung contrast, no? Meron talagang puti na parts, tapos nag-iitim or nagiging very dark siya pagdating dun sa folds ng chaise lounge, or yung upuan. Okay. If there's something that I would improve here, it would probably be the plants dito sa right side, no, kasi parang naglalako siya pag ginawa na siyang black and white na plate or color, no? So siguro I could make the shadows a little bit stronger, no, para mas lumitaw pa siya ng konti and magkaroon ng mas magandang transition between lightness and darkness. So you can do that for your plate. Or another example, no, I did this watercolor like a couple of months ago, and dito, no, obviously kasi yung kulay niya kasi pink at saka green, so since the colors themselves are already high contrast, if you turn it black and white, mas medyo hindi na ganun kalaki yung contrast, kasi black and white na siya, pero at least you still see the transition, or you have this very light parts of the render and then also very dark parts of the render, no? So at least maayos pa rin siya tingnan, no, yung render kahit na black and white na siya. Ang ayaw nyong mangyari yung pag tiningnan nyo siya in color, parang okay lang, tapos pag ginawa nyo siyang black and white, nawala na lahat ng color, no? Parang puro na lang siyang gray or puro na lang siyang white. So ibig sabihin kailangan nyo pang i-build up yung color, no, para umayos, para mas maganda yung contrast niya. Okay, so still have more people coming in, no? So welcome, good morning. So this is Alpha Winter. Anyway, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the stream today. Okay, so do we have any questions so far? Wala, nandyan pa ba kayo? Okay, so anyway, again, no, if you have any questions, just like type it here so we can start. I can reply to them better. So for today, we'll do a couple of examples siguro. We'll see kung gaano siya katagal. So I already sketched out the photo reference, no? I'll ask you to create your own composition, no? Simple lang naman. I just want it something rounded, no? And then something square. So get something na medyo bilog or cylindrical. And then anyway, I'll show you the exercise. Okay, so this is the photo reference that I took last night, no? And I thought like, parang ano bang pwedeng gawin dito for the like what can I do na medyo render na a little bit interesting. So I took like several objects here at home and tried to create like a vignette, for to render, Tapos since maliit lang yung papel, medyo na-reduce siya ng konti. But in any case, this is try to do something like this, no? Maraming heights, no? May matangkad, merong mababa. Tapos get something na medyo pabilog yung shape, no? Sige, okay lang. Welcome. Yun. So ayun, no? So you can create your own composition or your own vignette for this plate. So pwede kayong gumawa ng sarili ninyong composition o vignette kung gusto ninyo, no? Just get objects from your home and then arrange it in a manner na para sa inyo okay naman tingnan, no? Pero I suggest you get something like matangkad, no? Matangkad, mababa, para merong gumagalaw yung mata. Tapos get something na parang medyo bilog, so para mas ma-practice ninyo yung pag-render ng mga iba't ibang shapes. Tapos get something na square-ish like a book, boxes, anything, no? Mas madaling maghanap ng objects na gano'n, I guess. And then use that also, just stack them all together. I'll try to find a video explaining like how to come up with a good composition. Pero ayun, so this is the composition that I will be rendering today. And then so I'll put that over there. So obviously today we'll try to do two things, no? Here on top, I divided, this is the paper that we're going to use today, no? So it's just our ordinary watercolor paper, good for mixed media, works naman to. So we'll cut that into two, no? And then here on top we'll do like a watercolor mixed media rendering, and here dito sa baba we'll do markers naman na mixed rendering. When we say that, no, watercolor will be the main rendering medium here. So, tapos we will try to supplement that with other media that we can use or work with. Teka lang. And then dito sa baba, no, it will be mostly markers, and then we'll also play around with what other media we can use for this. So when you're doing mixed media works, there are certain mediums that work well or play well with each other. So this is your chance, or this is your opportunity to play around and see what works for you. Yun, kasi medyo sa totoo lang medyo mahirap magturo ng mixed media na rendering kasi the combinations can be so different, no? And like what works for someone might not work for another person. So this is really more about see what works for you, no? Pero usually many people like working with like they put, for example, here, for watercolors they would do a wash, as a base color for everything, and then they will put a little bit more watercolor, tapos they will probably like put layers of colored pencil or use pencil, or sometimes I so marami talagang combination, no? So hanap kayo, tingnan nyo kung ano yung gumagana para sa inyo, no? Now as a contrast, I'll show you some things here that I did like a couple of years ago, and tingnan nyo kung pwede, kung magagamit nyo yun, no? So for example, so this one, I did like several pillows na rendering of pillows. So here, this is ano nga to? This is just pink. So just a very light blue, and then I rendered I put some shading using gray watercolor, and then just to reinforce it, kasi it's a white paper, tapos very light yung color, I decided to put some pen na outlines para lang mas maging solid yung object. So I guess that's kinda okay. Yeah. This is very basic, no? You can outline your stuff and then put color into it, no? Again, just be very careful about this one. This is not this is not ano nga ba yun? You're not trying to render it in a coloring book style, no? There should always be contrast and shading and variations of your color to make it stronger visually, no? At hindi mukhang parang pambata. So ayun, so minsan kasi yun yung problem, pag medyo nagsisimula pa lang tapos nilagyan ng itim na outline, minsan ginagawa siya na para siyang coloring book. So try to avoid doing that, no? Now here, hindi nyo masyado nakikita yung contrast, pero this is actually watercolor and markers, no? So when I rendered this one, I placed an outline, no, with pen for the borders, no, for the outline of the objects, and then before I placed the watercolor, nilagyan ko ng markers kung saan sa tingin ko bumabagsak yung shadows, no? So obviously yung light source natin mula dito, tapos babagsak siya ganon. So yung mga shadows, no, obviously nandito sa ilalim, tapos dito sa mga folds ng ng pillow. So nilagyan ko ng gray na markers yun. Pagkatapos nilagyan ko ng glazing naman ng watercolor, no? So you get this kind of rendering na medyo textured, pero mukhang malambot pa rin yung unan. So that's another one. Tapos this one is ink, plus markers plus a wash of watercolor. So dito ginawa ko na mas detailed yung paglagay ng pen kasi nag-hatching din ako, So sana makita nyo, medyo malabo lang siya, pero there is a cross hatching there using a pen, and then reinforced it with ink, marker ink, for more shading, and then a wash of watercolor. So dito mas nakikita nyo malakas yung mas mataas yung contrast, no, from light to dark. So dito very high, high na high yung highlight, tapos pagdating dito sa likod dark naman siya. So yung ilaw niya nandito siya sa tapat naman, no? So, nasa tapat siya, medyo mataas, kaya yung shadow, no, nandito sa ilalim ng unan at saka nandun sa likod. So this is probably, we're going to render something like this if the surface is very shiny. So high contrast. This one, ano man ginawa ko dito? Yeah, this is ink and a wash of color, and then also some hatching. So walang markers ito, so hindi ganun ka lakas yung contrast. Of course, I can always like put a glaze, a gray colored glaze on top of it to make it to make the shadows stronger, no? Pero this one kind of works din naman, no? So you can do a lot of things, no? Try to do demonstrate some of that today. Tapos mga scratch na used to do some sampling to students before, no? So the same thing, it's pen hatching, and then this one, I think ano siya, may pen, tapos may shadows na gray markers, and then a watercolor wash, no? So pwede rin naman, kung wala kayong markers, you can always use color pencils, no? Tapos pwede rin syempre lapis lang, no? Kung gusto nyo yung gray na shadows, magkaroon ng gray shadows yung rendering ninyo, no? Warning lang, minsan kasi if you use a lot of grays for your shadows, although parang it sounds very logical, no? Parang gagawa ko ng shadows, so ano ba yung kulay ng shadows? Gray at saka black. So gagamit ako ng ano nga ba yun? Gagamit ako ng gray or lapis, no, para gumawa ng shadows. Okay lang naman yon, pero mag-ingat lang din kayo, no? Kasi I noticed that if you use a lot of grays for your rendering and your for your shadows, the colors tend to be, or namamatay yung kulay, no? Hindi siya matingkad tingnan, no? Kasi pinapatay ng gray yung tingkad ng kulay ninyo, no? So yung mga kulay, or madali kasing gumamit ng black, madaling gumamit ng gray, minsan brown, para magpa-shading at shadows. So, these colors, lalo na pag gray at saka chocolate brown, I noticed na pinapatay nila yung kulay, kasi parang ina-absorb nila yung kulay nila, yung mga kulay na nasa tabi niya. So hindi nagiging matingkad yung rendering, or pwedeng mamatay, no? Hindi maging matingkad yung rendering nyo. So kung hindi siya matingkad, minsan nawawalan siya ng impact, no? So mag-ingat kayo pag gumamit kayo ng gray, no? So pwede naman, hindi ko na sinasabi na wag gumamit ng gray pag nag-rendering, no? Just be careful about using it, no? Like personally, when I have to do shadows, I do two things, no? I can do two things. One, I can get a darker hue of the color that I want to render. Yes. Unfortunately, wala akong example ngayon, but for example, just like look at this one we did last time. For example, if I'm gonna paint a tree, if I start with this as highlight, and then this one as the mid-tone, this can be your shadow. Since pareho lang naman sila green, iba-iba lang yung intense, yung darkness, no, yung value ng green na ito, they work well with each other. So you can do a darker value of the color that you're using. Tapos sometimes I also use a contrast, like If the color is red, and then I want to put shading on it, I add a little bit of the complement of the color. So if the object is red, I'll add a little bit of green to the color so that the red will be darker, and that's what I use to do the shadows. Tapos, another thing that you can do is you can try using the dark hues of your color, no, based on the color wheel, no? So ano ba yung mga dark na colors naturally sa color wheel? Hindi ba it's blue and violet, no? I noticed that violet tends to be good for making shadows, no, and shading. So you might want to do that. Takes a little bit of practice. It's not that easy to do, I think, no? Pero experiment kayo. You can use violets for your shading. Okay, so now we'll start rendering this one, no, in mixed media, and then we'll see how things work as we go along. Okay. So if you have your rendering materials with you and you want to join me in rendering, so you can sketch out the reference photo here on the center, the top center corner, or the top center part of your screen, and then just like join me in trying to render this thing. Play around with that one. Okay, so let's start. So usually when I render something like this, I try to start with the biggest color, no? So I'll do I'll lay out the colors first, no? So para ang tawag dyan, yung base color natin, tapos I'll work on the other details. So here, since we're doing watercolor, no, I have 2 pots of color, of water. Okay. So one for washing or cleaning the brush, and then another one to get clean water from. So again, if you're doing watercolor, that's a good habit to have. Isang panlinis ng brush, isa yung kuha lang talaga ng tubig to render. So yung colors natin brown, no, and then like a reddish brown, and then a green, and then for cubo, no, medyo malapit lang din siya sa kulay ng it's more like an orange brown, no? Tapos a gray for this one. No, pag kumuha pala kayo ng reference photo, no, hanap kayo ng image na may malakas na contrast ng kulay, katulad nito, no. When I took this photo last night, nilagyan ko siya ng ilaw ng desk lamp dito sa left side niya, no? Tapos binuksan ko para malakas yung bagsak ng shadows naman dito sa right side. So try to get a picture like that para mas madaling mag-render ng mas madaling mag-judge ng light side at saka ng dark side. So dito, just put a wash ng mga colors. So maybe I can start with the brown color. Yeah, we'll start with this one, no, yung box. So I'll get a brown, yung regular brown color. Teka, ano ang kulay? Yung pangalan talaga niya. It's a Venetian red. So get that one. So yung mga Venetian red, obviously maganda yan pang paso. So get some of that. And then I'll add, because I want it to be a little bit similar to it's too red. I mix maybe I can show you my mixing palette. I'm mixing the colors there. So get this parang chocolate brown, and then I'll mix it with a little bit of the Venetian red. Palitan ko yung tubig dito. A little bit of the red. Always have some sort of like blotting sheet beside you. So ayun, so maybe that's fine. And then we'll start putting in our base color. Just looking for something. Nasaan dito yun? I'll place the base color muna dito sa box. So just a light color. So for this part, syempre I'll use a lot of water para hindi ganun ka pero syempre hindi ganun ka dark, no, yung kulay natin, kasi ano lang siya, no, base color lang. So ideally base color can be your lightest color for the object. So I think this one's a little bit dark. So pagkatapos kong ilatag ito ng konti, iba-blot out ko siya para hindi ganun ka lakas, lalo na dito sa side na to. Kasi obviously in the picture you see that because the light is on the right side, left side, no, lighter yung siya yung pinaka light na side, no? Tapos yung pinaka dark na side ay yung nasa harap na nasa right side. So we'll try to get that kind of contrast kahit na hindi pa ganun kalakas, no? Subukan na natin siyang ilatag dito. So habang hinihintay natin matuyo yan, we can go to other parts of the render, no? We'll start, I'll do this one next, yung paso na plastic, which is just this Venetian red. So linis ng brush, get and control the water, and then I'll render it this color. So again, this one, dahil nasa left side yung color, ay yung nasa left side yung ilaw, so obviously yung dark side niya ay nasa right side, and then the left side's a lit very light, kahit yung shading niya, sorry, yung highlight niya, no, halos, kung makikita nyo, halos puti. So latag lang natin yung base color niya. Kahit ito, kahit hindi pa siya yung smooth yung color, texture niya, okay lang. Kasi nagsisimula pa lang kayo. We'll smoothen that out later on. once you start putting refining the painting. So yun muna, tapos we'll do the leaves next, or medyo tuyo-tuyo ko ng konti. We'll do cubone next, so very light. Get some orange, and then we'll get some of the Venetian red. So parang try to approximate that color. So I think that's actually, kailangan ata ng yellow. And so get a little bit of yellow. I think that's a better color. So katawan at saka yung mata. So latag lang tayo. Yung kulay dyan. White part. And then just like all we're trying to do is get the colors together. Tapos yung belly niya is on the yellow brown side, so we'll try to get that. So this one. And then for the helmet, so it's this kind of like gray color, but I don't want to use just like black. So I think the light here is a warm white, so I can get like I can get gray, I can get black or a gray color, cool gray color, and then probably mix it with a little bit of orange, and that will be the base color for yung helmet. So get that, and then since siya, yung white siya, I'll just put it kung saan sa tingin ko napupunta yung shadow. So I'm using this side. Shadows dyan, tapos on this side also, saan pa, tsaka yung kanyang snout. Tapos I'll do the leaves next. So kung titingnan nyo yung leaves, obviously yung mga konti lang naman yung kulay na pwede nyong gamitin dito or karaniwang ginagamit dito, pero obviously here we have a lot of yellows and then have a lot of greens. So since nandun na siya, I'll use this yellow green color, or maybe yellow talaga. So or maybe some yellow with some green. Try to get that color, base color. Okay, and then we'll paint the leaves for the background. Base color. Okay, so do this one. Here I'm using parang a very pale na yellow green. Tapos since nandito na siya, you can even add your your highlights. Yung mga highlights pwede nyo iwanan as puti. So tapos dito leave some parts na halos puti for the highlights. kung saan tumatama yung ilaw. Kasi medyo shiny yung leaf. So an easy way for you to make something look shiny is to have high contrast. So iwan tayo ng puting parts para kung saan siya makintab. So dito kahit lalampas-lampas siya sa una, medyo okay lang naman. Huwag lang yung sobrang lampas talaga. Kasi once you put in your darker colors, dahil sa contrast, kung light na light lang naman yung yung mga lampas-lampas, halos hindi na rin mapapansin. Yan. So we'll wait for that to dry a little before we put in our next layer of color. So far, okay naman. Do you have any questions? So, napapansin nyo parang wala pang nangyayari or hindi pa masyado. Wala pa nangyayari talaga, no? So, ganun talaga siya. So here we'll do this one. Oops. Okay, so next, medyo tuyo-tuyo na siya. What we'll do is we'll put in our middle middle colors naman. So we'll start first work. Kailangan pa since hindi siya nakikita dito at kung iiwanan lang kasi natin na ganito to, para kasi siyang parang lumulutang lang yung composition, wala siyang grounding na effect, or wala siyang ground, parang wala siyang pinapatungan. So we'll add a color to that later on. We can just take the same color as yung libro na kung saan siya nakapatong, which is very blue color. We'll try to do that later on. So mamaya na ng konti. Now for this one, I want to, after putting in your the colors, yung background colors ninyo, what I want to do next is I want to put the shadows, or kung saan lalatag yung shadow, para may contrast na kaagad ako. So from the lightest color, I usually go to the darkest color for the next step, where I block in my shadows. Saan ko ilalagay ngayon yung shadows ko, So for this one, we'll start with this box here. And then, since obviously, again, nandito sa left side, yung ilaw niyan, obviously, this part here, kung saan yung likod ni Cubone, at saka maybe dito sa part na to, we'll put darker colors there. And like what you see here, Dito sa reference photo, darker itong side na to. So try to block that in out, obliterating the shadows. So let's make it a really this dark brown, red brown na color. So obviously the object here is wood, and wood usually has this contrasting colors kasi hindi naman siya yung solid, isang kulay lang talaga na solid, may variances siya, no? Parang if it's brown, it's not just like brown, sometimes it's like brown red or brown yellow or brown orange. So you can work that here. Hindi siya kailangan yung solid na color. So once you block out the shadows like what I did here, you can clean your brush and then just get like really white water and then start to pull that color away to blend it. Parang lalo na kung soft yung shadow, so blend mo siya para hindi siya ganun ka-harsh, no? Lalo na kung hindi naman ganun yung gusto nyong mangyari. So blend that out para rin kung titingnan nyo kasi yung kulay ng box, marami siyang variances, para meron pagka-black, meron pagka-brown. So subukan natin siyang i-recreate dito, no? Although next week we will be doing we'll study how to render wooden effects, no? So this is, you can consider this as the intro, I guess, to that. So just get this mottled color. We can drop some other colors like maybe a black here at the back. Drop colors na darker dito sa likod para lang magka-contrast siya. So we can leave that. Tapos we'll do something about this one, no? Para hindi siya yung super flat na color. What I can do is I will do a wash, wet on wet. So lalagyan ko muna siya ng tubig lang, and then I'll get some of the brown, the same color brown that we used earlier, and then I'm just going to drop the colors yan. So you get a more mottled effect na. Ibig sabihin parang patsi-patsi na kulay. So ano niya lang siya, just let it run. Kasi hindi man tayo humahabol dito ng accuracy, diba? Or well, not accuracy, hindi man tayo naghahabol ng photo realism. So, gusto lang natin na parang okay, that kind of looks like the object that we want. Tapos dito, since this is the second darkest na part, no, we'll add another layer of color doon, pero hindi katulad doon sa taas. Hindi ganun ka-dark. Maybe we can put some dark parts talaga dito sa may mga gilid. Pero dito, kung saan mas malapit siya sa ilaw, hindi natin siya gagawin super dark talaga. Again, para mahabol natin yung mottled or patsi-patsi na nature ng object, we'll drop some darker colors there to get a more mottled effect. So mottling, maybe we can even add a little of the orange. So habang basa pa siya, add some of that. Just like drop it. If it starts to become too harsh, you can always get some water and try to blend those harsh lines away. May dumi, so kailangan tanggalin. So, pwede pa siyang nawawala siya. So make this a little bit darker, more mottled. So hindi natin kailangan ng super smooth na color dito para magmukha siyang kahoy na minsan patse-patse ng kulay. Add some orange. Add some dark browns and grays or black. You can put the black dito kung saan kung saan yung darkest part ng box. Then we'll just leave it almost at that. We'll put some colors just to get that mottled effect. So ngayon you kind of have this contrast, no? There's a lighter color here and then like a middle color, a very dark color dito sa may likod ng ating figure, and a medium color for the face of the box. So, iwanan natin yan ngayon. We'll do the pot next. So, for this one, we'll get yung ating Venetian red, and then we'll mix it with a little bit of brown to get a darker color. So, for this one, obviously, dito sa right side, it's almost dark, so almost black. Tapos sa may side dito, it's a little bit brighter and then it becomes a little bit darker here. So, tapos dito sa ilalim, yung saan nagdi-dip yung parang plato niya, yun yung pinaka-dark, no? Tapos meron ding highlight dito, tapos the rest will be like this red, brown. So since again nag-aabol tayo ng kulay, ng shading, pinta muna natin yung pinaka-dark na parts, which is this. Tapos yung loob ng pasok din, very dark siya. So ipinta natin yung loob ng paso. It's very deep brown. Kung wala kayo, or Venetian red. Kung wala kayong Venetian red, you can always get like your regular red and then mix it with a little brown. So you get this red-brown na color. Basta yung loob ng paso, i-render natin. Something very dark. So ngayon medyo mas nabubuo na siya, no? Mas nagkakaroon na siya ng konting dimension. Tapos dito naman sa gilid, sa likod ng paso, render natin yan with the darkest color. Since very dark siya, i-blend in natin siya, no? So hugasan ko yung paintbrush ko, get some clean water, pat it out, and then just pull that dark color, so, para mag-blend siya papunta sa gitna. Maybe you can add some shadow nung blend it out. Maybe add a little bit of black dito, and then just let it blend out. Tapos dito naman maglagay tayo ng konting yung red brown dito sa gilid. Dito. Then we'll blend it out. So just a wet brush, malinis na tubig, just like blend it out towards the highlight. So kung nawala yung puti, okay lang, we can do something about it pa. Okay, mabahala. So dito may nakikita kayong shadow, no, nung branch or yung stem ng halaman, no? Pwede natin ilagay yan mamaya. Dito i-blackout lang natin kung yung dark at saka yung light. Tapos render natin yung tuktok ng ng paso. So we do it like this. So, tapos blend out lang ulit natin. Actually gusto ko siyang i-black out. Natanggalin natin yung sobra para maano. So medyo nabubuo na siya ng konti. Ngayon gagawin naman natin ay yung halaman. Teka, ano ba? Medyo we'll do cubone siguro. So render natin siya. Paano ba to? Maybe we can start yung katawan niya, no? Kung saan look at the darkest shadow. Ngayon, hindi natin susundin masyado kung ano yung nakalagay dito, pero darkest part niya. Yung mata. Medyo tricky. Medyo tricky ito. Natin yung darker color para mas obvious, no? Kung ano talaga yung kulay niya. Pwede natin ayusin yan later on. Put this color chan. Tsaka dito sa ilalim ng tanga. Siyempre we can blend that out. So leave that. Ano muna natin yan. Medyo nabubuo-buo na siya. And then yung ulo naman niya ngayon, lagyan natin yung shadow. So, obviously dito sa pinakadulo na side, kung ano yung hugis ng object, susundan natin yung contour ng object. Siyempre pwede natin siyang i-blend out, no? Para mas malambot siya tingnan. Tapos ngayon naman i-render natin yung halaman. So we'll get a dark green, no? Na green na may yellow pero darker yung hue. So this color this green. Test muna kung okay ba yun. So I guess that's okay for medium na green. So dito obviously no, yung halaman kasi hindi siya yung puro green lang talaga. Meron siyang iba-ibang kulay. So we'll try to capture that, no, lalo na yung dahon sa may gitna. I think that would be the hardest one to get. So okay, so dito medyo pa ganon yung yung path ng kulay niya, no? So susundan lang natin yun. You don't have to copy it like super slavish, parang kailangan gayang-gaya talaga. Just get an approximate of it. Dito naman I can add a darker color. Medyo nabubuo-buo na siya ng konti. Tapos we do the other leaves. So when you paint plants, although we have a module on just how to paint plants, no? Pero if you're starting, usually you want to follow yung direction ng leaves. Kung ano yung contour niya, bagayan nyo yung brush strokes niyo. So kung pa-curve yung dahon, try to also put your color na pa-curve. Again, following the contours or kung ano yung hugis talaga ng puno ng halaman ninyo. This one. Kung saan yung shadows, iiwan tayo ng darker ng color ng leaves. So dito gagamit lang talaga ako ng hue, so I'll just get a darker green. Tapos dito a darker green. Then sundan nyo lang yung hugis ng halaman, yung dahon, yung render your leaves. This is actually true for any kind of shape. Kung pabilog yung object, you usually want a curvy or pabilog din na brush strokes to give it contour, molding. Yeah, sometimes they call it like molding sa fine arts. This one's a lighter green. Here, I'm gonna leave the center white. Kasi may shine siya doon. And then this one, so sa ilalim, it's a little bit darker. And then the leaf, it's on top. Always the darker part siya. Add the darker parts also. Dark parts. So we're starting to build the colors. Tapos dito naman darker parts. Sa dulo, very dark color kasi halos nakatago na yung dahon mula sa ilaw. Tapos, last yung mga branches. No? Branches, essentially, ano lang yan, it's like just trying to render a sphere, or sorry, not a sphere, a cylinder. So, parang nagre-render lang kayo ng tubo. Usually the center is the darkest part, or kung diretso yung ilaw, nasa sides, isang side yun. Okay, so more or less, nang nakalatag na, lahat ng kulay. Okay, so far, okay naman tayo. Nandyan pa ba kayo? Kumusta na? So, kung merong halimbawa katulad dito, na accidentally namantsahan ko siya, so just get some water and then pat it out. I-lift nyo lang siya para matanggal yung kulay. Okay, so I think we have to wait for this to completely dry, para bago tayo maglagay ng iba pang dito layer, para mas magmukha siyang mas buhay. Kasi pag ganito parang it seem like hindi kasi tapos pa. Okay. So marami tayong choices dito, pwede tayong mag-pen, pwede tayong mag-pencil, kung gusto nyo magdagdag ng mas malakas pa na kulay, pwede kayong gumamit ng color pencil, Ako personally kasi hindi talaga ako magaling gumamit ng ng pencil, like color pencils, basta hindi siya para sa akin hindi kami nagkakasundo, yung sa color pencils. Kahit na may color pencil ako, so bihira ako gumamit ng color pencil. Pero kayo, kung gusto nyo gumamit ng color pencil, okay naman, wala naman akong wala namang problema doon, just as long as you get the effect that you want. Pero I think for this one I will do a color, I'll do pencils, and then I'll try to integrate some of the color pencils that I've been telling you about earlier. Now, habang naghihintay tayo na matuyo ito, gawin naman natin yung dito sa ilalim. Ito para lang hindi tayo maghintay ng matagal talaga, kasi mahigit isang oras na tayo nandito. So ang gagawin ko dito, since markers siya, well, you do markers, tapos pen. I'll render it with a pen, tapos I'll ink it with a pen, and then I'll render it in markers later on. So meron akong technique kung paano ko nag-ink. Maybe I can create a video for that, just explaining like how I usually render or ink something. But here I'll just do something very quick. Usually I start with a 0.3 na pen, and then I'll outline everything. Kasi for this size, I think okay yung 0.3 as a start. So hindi siya masyadong makapal, hindi naman siya ganun din kanipis. So just go around the outlines very quickly in the interest of like saving some time. Just start with all of the leaves, kasi nagpapatong-patong kasi siya, so just want to get that out of the way. So very quickly, this lang, ink lahat. So ito yung time na kung meron kayong gustong i-adjust ng konti, syempre pwede nyo i-adjust yan. While inking, hindi nyo naman kailangan sundan talaga kung ano yung nakalagay sa sa pen, no? So dito kayo mag-a-adjust. So actually here I'm adjusting certain elements na gusto kong ayusin. So just render everything in ink, or outline everything pala in ink. So here, tapos ito just render. Lang po. Ink. Tapos yung paso. Cubone. Dito since itim naman ako, i-render ko na siya. Fill out the eyes. Belly, feet. Finally, the box. Some of the details very light. Medyo napusisi na part. Anyway, we'll kind of do it. So, gawin na lang din natin. Yung, pag ginawa nyo yung mga ganito, hindi nyo naman kailangan talaga sukatin kung ilan piraso siya, no? Unless super crucial siya sa sa rendering. Halimbawa, kung very crucial yung rays of the sun sa sa flag, yun. So kailangan 8 siya. So dapat 8 rin yung nasa render ninyo. So okay, so ngayon na siya, naka-ink na siya. Ayusin natin yan pa later on. So this is like my first ink for this one. Balik tayo dito sa taas. So ngayon, gagawin natin, we'll use different medium or media, no, to render this one, to make it look more complete, para magmukha siyang mas tapos. Kasi since na blackout na yung mga major elements like the shadows, yung highlights, lowlights mo, now it's just like about how do you reinforce these colors. So again, sabi natin kanina, no, maraming approaches. You can use like a pen, you can use a pencil, maraming iba't ibang paraan. Actually, medyo naguguluhan nga ako, ano bang gagamitin ko. Pero sige, let's make a choice, no? So maybe I can use I wanna ink it kasi may ink na tayo dito. Pero I'll use some, I guess we'll use some ink, no? So halimbawa yung snout tsaka yung mata, since it's black, gamitin na natin yung black dito na pen. Now, if you want it medyo mas since I think sa ating sa color, well, wala naman, pero you can actually put like a if you want, you can put like a shine on it, no? You can use your white pen and then dun nyo ilalagay yung shine sa mata. So parang yung mga anime rendering na merong puti sa mata, you can put that there, para kung saan makintab yung mata. Tapos the rest you can use a pencil, no, to outline it. Tapos once you've tested it, no, well, minsan kasi baka hindi nyo gusto, or you want something stronger, you can always use another medium, no? Pero just for the sake of the exercise, we'll use a pencil here. So I have a soft pencil here. I think this is a 5B pencil, no? So medyo malambot siya. Sharpen it, matulis siya as as sharp as you can. If you really plan to use a lot of color pencils, I suggest you invest on desktop sharpener, yung katulad ng ginagamit sa office, kasi very crucial na matulis yung mga lapis ninyo pag nag-render kayo. For example, I'll show you my color pencils. So I try to make them matulis talaga, kasi mas madaling maglatag ng kulay, lalo na kung medyo bako-bako yung papel ninyo. And of course, you can get like really thin lines kung kailangan nyo, if you have these sharp penned pencil. Mas may control kayo. So I sharpened the pencil for this one, and then we'll use that to outline and maybe even hatch. So dito, many people like, of course, using pencil kasi you get this high degree of control with the material or with the medium. You can add hatching there if you want. Kung sa tingin nyo parang, kailangan niya pa ng konting shading dito, you can add some more hatching dito sa snout. Of course, pencils are, kasi it's not as dark as a pen, the contrast is more, more subtle. Tapos, ako, kung karaniwan ginagawa ko, since nandito yung ilaw natin, ito yung highlight na part natin, usually hindi ako naglalagay ng white line, or hindi ako naglalagay ng outline doon. Iniiwan ko siyang bakante lang para ma-reinforce yung shine o yung kintang. So, for this one, try to remember your exercises in black and white, drawing and rendering. So you can do a hatching, which I like. Personally, I like doing hatching kesa yung smudge. So you can do that here. Tapos i-judge natin mamaya kung kailangan pa ba niya ng iba pang klaseng outline. Outline. Pag nag-hatching kayo, syempre, follow the contour of your object. So, kung pabilog siya, make sure na nagto-curve yung mga lines nyo. Sinusundan nyo yung hugis ng object. Para mas convincing yung rendering ninyo. So I guess you can look at that one. So more or less, so mas na siya ngayon, mas well defined na siya. So we'll go to the box. So this one I'll also outline. Outline using your pencil, then yung opening niya lagay natin. Okay. Now since meron tong yung inlay, yung puti na nakikita-kita nyo, so gagamit tayo ng puting pen para ilagay yung inlay niya. Kailangan gumana siya. So, kung hindi gagana ito, you can always use a gouache paint, yung white paint. So, I think parang hindi ata siya gumagana. Hindi ganun kaputi yung yung gel pen. So gagamit tayo ng gouache. Saan yung gouache? Okay. So, yun. So, gagamit tayo nitong gouache. So, white opaque na paint. Then you get a small brush. Since konti lang naman yung gagamitin natin, as yung small brush, some paint. So mas nakikita siya. So just try to get the pattern. Medyo pangit. So pangit ang brush na to. Hindi siya nagpo-point. Medyo mahirap gumawa ng pattern. So just dry brush the pattern with white pen or white ink or a paint. Kung hindi ganun kaputi yung I think next time, like, if I'm gonna do it, maybe I can, hindi ako natutuwa dito. I think I can even, like, do it stronger. So, okay, hindi ako natutuwa. I'll render it further, no? Kasi feeling ko masyado atang maputi. Hindi ganun lakas pa yung contrast ng, ng box. So, I'll add more color to it. Nasa na yung aking brush. I'll do a stronger brown here. So, pwede tayo mag-adjust. Wala namang problema doon. Lalo na kung na-realize nyo later na parang, okay, kulang pala yan. So, add more colors there. So kahit na may gouache na siya, okay lang. Pwede namang naman siya. Matatakpan naman siya ng konti. Yun na nga, pag natanggal na yung always just like take it out. So we'll lift that out para hindi tanggalin lang natin siya, lift lang. And then start really painting it in a darker color. I think that's better actually. Masyado palang light yung kanina. So, i-adjust din natin yung taas para mahabol niya yung darkness ng front. That's better. And then I'll just add a little bit here. That's better. So just leave that there. Patuyuin muna natin siya. Trying to add more here. So parang feeling ko kailangan siya. Tapos dito din. Maybe we can leave that for a while habang hinihintay natin siyang matuyo. Punta naman tayo dito So, okay. Pag nagre-render, pag nag-ink ako, gusto ko kasi um, mas maganda kung may contrast din siya, ano, merong makapal, merong manipis, para mas buhay siya. So, kasi kung isang thickness lang yung line work ninyo, hindi siya ganun ka-interesting, no? Parang napaka-flat kasi isang thickness lang yung yung line. So what I usually like doing is I like to outline objects um, in a dark with a thicker line. No? Gusto ko na may mas matigas or mas makapal na linya yung mga objects na gusto kong i-feature, no? Or gusto kong i-highlight. So for example dito gusto ko siyang i-outline ko ito ng mas dark, mas thicker na line gamit ang 0.8 na pen. 0.8 ito. Para lang mas lumitaw siya. Kasi for example, gusto mong gawing center of attention, yung focal point ng rendering mo, you can always, one way to highlight that is to make the outlines thick para mas interesting siya tignan. Siyempre, mas napapansin siya ng tao. So here I will outline cubone with a 0.8 na pen para mas makapal siya tignan. Outline everything, yung outer lang, outer outline lang ang i-render ko or lalagyan ko ng mas makapal na linya. So it takes a little bit of time to do it. Worth it. At least para sa akin. Okay. So now naka-outline na siya. Mas nakikita. Mas napapansin nyo na siya. So maybe kasi most of the time the eyes are used as focal points. So I'll make that a little bit thicker. Here I'll use a 0.5 na pen. So just like make the outlines around the eyes a little thicker para mas mag-focus yung mata ninyo sa mata, yung cubone, and maybe some of the snout. Inner outlines. With a 0.5 pen. So ngayon, mas napapansin nyo na siya. So I'll do the same thing for the others. This one, yung box, since hindi naman ayoko siya gawing yung main focus ng render, I'll just do 0.5. So hindi ganun kakapal, pero mas makapal yung outline kaysa sa detail line work sa loob. para lang lumabas siya, mas magkaroon na, mas mabuhay siya. Tapos yung paso, I think I'll leave it as it is, pero yung dahon pwede kong i-ink yung outer outlines ng dahon ng mas makapal na linya, no? Again, just like a 0.5. Oops, hindi na pala nakikita. Just a 0.5 na pen, I ink it with a darker outline. So kung may tanong kayo habang ginagawa ko to, may tanong kayo, ano nyo lang, i-type nyo lang sa chat box or ilagay nyo sa Discord natin. Outer outlines lang. Some of the branches. Pagkatapos nito, buburahin ko yung lapis para hindi madumi. Once I start rendering this with ink, markers pala. Okay, so iiwanan natin yan. Tapos start erasing the pencil marks para pag nag-render ng marker, hindi nadudumihan yung markers. Ano natin, yeah, dito pala kailangan gusto ko lagyan ng detailing. Detailing, which I'll also do later on doon sa taas. So let's go back to this one. Meron pala tayong nakalimutan na maliit. Okay, so to finish this off, so ngayon, subukan natin lagay yung pattern dito. So kung mas successful ba tayo, tingnan natin. Hindi masyado nakikita. Outline ko lang muna ulit siya. This time, dahil mas dark na siya, hindi the white pen will, I guess the white pen works better. Dito sa mas dark na yung outline ninyo, yung background ninyo, pero hindi pa rin ako natutuwa. So maybe I'll use the gouache. Put the outlines, put the detailing. I think this works better. Detailing with the white gouache, which works better with a darker outline. Now it looks a little bit better with the outlines and the detailing on the box. It looks a little bit more finished now. Ayusin lang natin yung dahon ng konti. Hindi pa ako natutuwa dyan sa dahon. May kulang pa siya ng mga outlines, kulang pa siya ng shadow at shading. So work on that a little. So get a darker color and put some shading. Some green. A little darker, I'll add a little bit of red. So, lalagay ako ng konti dito. And then here also, saan pa? Sa ilalim nito. Shading. Tapos, saan pa? Dito. Little bit more alive. Tapos let's add darker shadows, low lights dito sa mga dahon na mas dark, kasi tago sila sa ilaw. So etong kulay na to is just your regular green, and naglagay ako ng konting red no? Para mas maging darker siya. So, ingat lang kayo pag ginawa nyo yun, no? Kasi may tendency na maging parang putik yung kulay. So, di ba kasi sa color theory, if you mix the two complementary colors, usually you end up with a brown or a gray. So, ingat kayo para hindi masyadong patay yung kulay. Just a tiny bit of dark para lang mag contrast siya dun sa lighter na leaves na katabi niya. This one also. So after that, I think I will outline this with pencil. Okay. So yung mga effects na nakikita nyo dito, no? Like me always mixing and mixing colors, you can also use color pencils to do that effect. So if you do this, if you're doing pencil outlines, just try to remember the principles that you learned in rendering with in black and white. You can do hatching here. Personally, I like doing hatching because it's very flexible. You don't have to smudge. At least kasi pag hatching, lumalabas pa rin yung kulay na nasa ilalim. Kasi pag nag-smudge ka, tinatakpan mo yung kulay sa ilalim. So namamatay. Hindi na nagiging matingkad yung rendering. You can use hatching here. I'm gonna add some detailing. And always rotate your pencil para parati siyang matulis. Tapos since tayo dito, malakas talaga yung yung highlight doon, maybe we can use some of the gouache to strengthen the shine of the color. So, itong line na ito dito, lagyan natin ng white na outline, na shine marks, para mas mukha siyang makintab. You can do the same thing, no, dito sa mga sa dahon. Halimbawa, masyado naging dark, no, tapos gusto nyong lagyan ng puting highlights, pwede rin naman. Anyway, we'll have a session on how to determine how best to put your highlights and your shadow. We'll work on that in a separate module. So dito ngayon, lalagyan ko na lang ng outline yung mga dahon para mas maging well-defined siya. Kailangan ba talagang may outline? Personally, ako pag nagre-render ako ng watercolor, ayoko actually naglalagay ng outline. Kung mag-outline ako, ginagamit ko watercolor din. Pero since medyo matagal yun, takes a little bit more time to do that, lalo na kung hindi ka sanay. So since naghahabol tayo ng oras dito, I'll just use a pencil, which is fine. It also works. Just be fair. Know how to use the material. Hindi ibig sabihin na naglagay ka ng pencil, tatakpan mo na ng lapis yung buong rendering. Hindi naman ganon. So this is a very although it takes a while to do it. This is more or less like a sketchy type rendering. Hindi talaga yung super detailed, but there's a lot of detail here. It's not it's still on the sketchy side. It looks better, I think, if you look at the rendering up close. Yung pang pag nilapitan mo, tinitingnan mo ng malapit. I think this type of rendering works better for that. Put some midribs, yung veins ng dahon. You can put some of that. So just like what we did here, you can make some lines thicker, some lines thinner. Actually, that helps in making your rendering better and creating emphasis. I think is fine. Maybe I can make the rendering or the outline on Cubone a little bit thicker para lang mas may emphasis siya. Means I want this small object here to be like the main focus of the render. Kahit na hindi siya yung pinakamalaking object, pwede natin i-draw yung attention ng tumitingin sa render ninyo by making the outline thicker than the rest of the objects. Okay. So more or less ganito, no? Now as a finishing touch, no, like sabi ko kanina, I want to put a background color to it para hindi magmukhang parang nakalutang sa hangin yung object. So I'll use the blue. Naghahalo ako ng kulay dito. So I'll get the blue. I'm gonna mix it with a little black, maybe even brown actually. just to get like a nice background color, medyo neutral, hindi matingkad. It's good for backgrounds. Okay. So I'll start doing that. Kung hindi kayo sigurado, then you can always get a pencil, and then tulad dito, just put an outline there na okay, hanggang dyan ang aking background. You can always get a nasa na yun? You can always get a ruler to guide you to do that. Hindi ko makita yung ruler ko ngayon, so I'll just eyeball it. Tapos pag ganito, since what we're going to do is we're going to put a dark foreground or surface to this one. I can block out na okay, this will be the parts that will be covered in shadow, no, or the darker parts, para at least ma-anticipate nyo na okay, this is how it will look like, no? The rest will be like not so dark. Okay, so we'll start putting the outline and the background or the surface. So start there. Hindi siya ganun ka-dark pa. We can always go back to it. It's just laying out my color. This one. Try to work fast, para ma-blend natin siya ng maayos at mas mukhang pulido yung gawa. So ito, tubig na lang, just trying to pull the colors so it's not so dark. Try to do a graded wash effect here. The graded washes are very good for they're nice to use for shading and shadows kasi they look very natural. Here we put darker colors. Subukan natin pantayin. We'll add the shadows. Underneath the box, the back of objects, dito din. Tapos we'll blend that out a little, no? Para hindi sobrang harsh yung bagsak. Soft shadow lang tayo dito, no? Hindi hard shadow. So we'll do a soft shadow. Let's clean water and then just try to blend that out to get your softer shadow na blending. Same thing here. Soft shadows lang. In the background, we can leave white for the moment. So at least meron na tayong grounding na element. Okay. So, this is an example of mixed media rendering. So, a little bit on the sketchy side. So we don't really have. It's been like almost past 2 hours just for that one. Usually do it like faster. Pero yun. So this is kasi marami din tayong elements kasi na ginamit, no? Okay, so hindi na muna natin gagawin ito, no? We'll not do the markers anymore, but maybe we can do this in another time, no? Like next week, madali lang kasi yung yung wood graining, madali lang yun eh. So maybe we can continue this one next week. Okay, so for the meantime, for this week's plate, no, I will be posting this as a sample, and then I will be I'll modify. Dapat sana ganito yung gagawin natin, pero since medyo medyo mahirap pala siya. I'll modify the activity and we'll just do one of these. Okay, so yeah, do we have any questions so far? Nandyan pa ba kayo? May tanong ba tayo? Wala ng tao. None. Sigurado ka. Well. So magagawa nyo to pag iniwanan ko kayo. Magagawa nyo yan We'll just do I'll post the guidelines for this plate mamaya. Siguro I'll just modify it a little, pero yun, this is one way of doing mixed media na works, no? I'll also post etong mga samples na ginawa ko dito, kahit na maliliit lang siya. I'll post that also so you have a guide. Sir, teka, ano to? Sir, so watercolor lang po muna ipapasa sa mixed media. Yeah, we'll do watercolor base muna, and then a lot of the other and then you'll play around with whatever you want to add to it. If you want to add like color pencil for the shading, outlining with a pen or a pencil, okay lang din. Pero for now, we'll do watercolor lang muna. Ayun. So yung sa drawing, kasi pangalawang dalawa na yung drawing classes nyo, di ba? So dapat ayusin nyo yung yung drawing nyo din, no? Kasi if you have a good drawing, you can really get away with a lot of things, no? Kahit na pasada lang yung yung rendering with color, pag maganda yung yung drawing ninyo, you can get away with a lot, no? I'll show you something. Okay, so this is teka, parang drawing book ko to. I do sketches on another notebook, tapos pero pag meron akong gustong gawin talaga na as a render, karaniwan ginagawa ko siya dito sa notebook na to. And kasi watercolor notebook ito. I have like several things here. For example, like this is a parang attempt lang ng watercolor, and not that strong kasi parang feeling ko hindi ganun kaganda yung contrast dito. Pero for example, maybe this one. Maybe this one. So, because of the contrast, medyo mas takaw pansin, yung rendering kasi dark yung background, tapos very light yung colors ng flowers. Originally kasi this is just in white, but then I noticed na parang medyo pangit kasi parang hindi lumilitaw yung mga bulaklak, nagka-fade siya sa background. So I decided to paint it with black, and medyo naman para sa akin, it was a good decision, kasi mas na-highlight yung bulaklak. Tapos kung mapapansin nyo, I used a lot of inks also, so different kinds of inks, mas realistic yung pag-render ng flowers kaysa sa mga leaves, pero dahil siya, congruent siya, parang they work naman well with each other, they look fine, so ito yung sinasabi ko kanina, na parang originally kasi ito parang ganito lang siya. So kung napapansin niyo, hindi lumilitaw masyado ito, So nung ginawa ko to kasi pinagawa ko ng kaibigan ko sa akin, gusto niyang gumawa ng greeting cards for Mother's Day. Kahit ito, it was like a Mother's Day greeting card last year. So I scanned this, tapos digitally minanipulate ko siya, tinanggal ko yung background, nilagay ko siya sa mas darker na background, so gumana naman, mas maayos siya tingnan. I think I used like a dark blue background for this one, so mas okay siya tingnan. The same thing with this one. Tapos ito din, I have parang ganito yung gawa ko sa kanya. So my friend and I also turned this into a greeting card, Tapos so white background, tapos yellow yung bulaklak. So in terms of contrast, hindi talaga ganun ka lakas, pero we placed it in this maroon na background na mas darker, so medyo mas lumitaw siya. Tapos since ibebenta sana namin to sa UP, so maroon at saka sunflowers, so bagay siya. Okay naman, mas maraming nagustuhan ito kaysa dun sa white na background. So hindi ko naman sinasabi na wag kayo gumamit ng white na background. Depende kasi kung ano yung ginagawa ninyo. For interiors kasi usually hindi naman puti yung backgrounds lang natin. Even if you have like white walls, you usually paint it with something else, like a blue gray for background, for shadows. So the same thing dito. There's always this outline, and if you notice, the outline here is darker. And then I did some hatching, tapos for the rendering na minimal lang yung colors. Now this one's a little bit different, pero ito ganun din. White lang, tapos yellow kasi so mas may hatching ito. we can do another activity for that later if you want to work on it. So sabihan nyo lang ako, if you want to learn like how to do a certain thing, if you want to have like extra resources on like on how to come up with a better line work, using pens with your outlines, or you want to learn a certain technique, sabihan nyo ako, or actually what we can do also is, if you have an artist that you like or admire, or someone who does things on Instagram, fina-follow nyo siya, gusto nyo yung gawa niya, maybe you can post it in our Discord, so we can discuss like paano ba niya ginawa yan, para mabusisi natin yung niya, yung style niya, so that if you want to imitate it, magagawa nyo, more or less alam nyo kung ano yung gagawin nyo. Kasi I know naman, alam ko naman na yung style ng rendering ko might not be what you want. My style of rendering is really not for everyone. So kung hindi nyo naman siya kailangan gayahin, pwede naman kayo gumawa ng sarili ninyong style, It's really all in the technique, basta alam nyo lang kung ano yung ginagawa ninyo, So yung mga demo na ginagawa natin dito is my attempt at showing you how I break down the steps, so that hopefully pag naintindihan nyo kung paano tayo nakarating from one product to the other, paano tayo nagsimula, paano tayo nag-end, kung alam nyo kung ano yung nangyari in between, kahit na hindi nyo gayahin kung paano ako gumagawa ng render, maiisip nyo sa sarili ninyo, or ma-figure out nyo by yourself kung paano siya magagawa sa sarili ninyong mga plates at renderings. So ayun, so okay ba tayo? I guess okay na yun muna for today. It's the stream has gone on for over 2 hours just for this one rendering, and a start of the inking of this one. I wanted to put in some pa sana dyan, gusto ko sana maglagay ng hatchet, pero that will take too much time, so we'll just do this one for today. So more watercolor, and then other medium. So again, kung gusto nyo gumamit ng dyan, gusto nyo gumamit ng color pencils, pwede naman, hindi ko lang siya nagamit. Hindi ko lang siya nagamit dito. So ayun. So I guess that's it for today. I'll post the guidelines for this plate later on. I'll just fix it a little. Tapos yung mga hindi pa nagsasubmit ng plate from last time, don't forget to submit it, at the end of the day. Wag matakot, always ano nga ba to? Huwag matakot gumamit ng kulay lang yan. So, mas maging matapang kayo sa paggamit ng kulay para mas may dating yung renders ninyo. Okay? So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you for joining me, and for those of you who stayed until the end, maraming salamat. I'll annotate this video when it ends, so that you can just like skip through the different parts if you're going to review the video for today. So maraming salamat. Kita tayo ulit sa susunod na linggo for another rendering session. Salamat. Goodbye.